yesterday verdict. I know some people in the comment sections were really confused by my reaction, the fact that I was relieved or even that I cried. First of all, hi, my name is Brittany Simon. I do philosophy through pop culture, and I am a sensitive girly, and I cry when I say a pretty flower, let alone the fact that the tension was so high in my body that I fully expected a not guilty verdict. So the fact that we even got a guilty was enough to make me go, Gerhardt Konig found guilty. Okay. Now, I understand people weren't happy with the results. I don't know what that means. I'm not in this bubble. I was just relieved he got any sort of guilty response. Now, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be passionate. If you don't understand where I'm coming from, maybe take a second and figure it out. Because I also don't know where you're coming from, because we're not the same people. So as a person who watched the whole thing, maybe you didn't watch it with me, maybe you did. We're all going to have different reactions to situations. I also kind of like, my sort of like specialty, non-specialty is people and how people work. And I think the world expects so much out of people, but I expect as much as I think is reasonable. And I think the world cannot be the way it is unless people as a majority are the way they are. So I also don't expect much from the jury, because I expect as much as I think people are capable of, which is why I explained my reasoning for my reaction at the time. Okay, with that said, here is one of the jurors who did an interview, and let's see what she has to say.
My name is Makalapua Atkins, Makalapua, last name Atkins, Atkins.
And why do you think you were selected to be a juror for this case?
I'm not really sure why I was selected to be a juror, but if I had to guess right now, it would be because I wasn't on island during the incident.
So where do you live? Do you live in Honolulu?
I currently live in Honolulu County, yes.
Okay. And can you take me through how you started your deliberations and how you came to your decision?
When we went into deliberation room yesterday afternoon, we were given a set of instructions that would detail everything that we were to look at in terms of the law and what each count definition is.
And so how did you break it down? How did you go through the counts and go through the law? And you asked for quite a bit of things. I mean, the judge said that this morning you asked for a whiteboard, for stickies. I mean, there were 6 things on your list. Why did you ask for all that?
Okay, so when we came in yesterday, we had a general idea of just the ability to talk about things. So we're able to kind of just air out whatever we've been holding in the last few weeks. But when we returned this morning, I think we all had, after we were able to talk about it, I think we all had a better perspective after reading the instructions. So when we came in, we really had to dig down and focus on what the instructions were and what each count was. And so because of that, we were needing an extra amount of supplies, mainly office supplies, so that we can go ahead and notate how the evidence is. And
for the record, I'm gonna have to ban you because I don't know who you are, but you can't say these kinds of things. You said, did they ask her maiden name and the name of her last pet she had? That's racist. You see how casually people are racist? Are you making fun of her name right now? Are you 5 years old? Are you a racist middle-aged man from Kentucky? Is that what you're doing in my chat? Are you literally making fun of her name? What are you doing?
Put them around the room so that it's in view of everybody, so that everybody could put their opinion on the evidence that was presented to us that's relevant.
No, chat says, I thought it was the joke was referencing the internet security jokes. Was it? Did they ask her maiden name and the full name of her pet? Was it a joke? Should I unban them? Okay, I'll unhide you, but you better be clarifying. I think they're saying they're asking for a lot of details. Is that what they're saying? Seriously, name where they live? Okay, maybe I jumped the gun. Hold on. I unbanned you. Did I jump the gun? Sorry, I see a little bit of racism and I want to punch it in the face, like Lady Liberty. Okay, I unbanned you. Clarify in the comments, okay? I'm just being cautious. I don't want any mean things to happen to this lady because I already know what's going to happen, right? Right? This lady, there's a chance someone's going to hurt her because they don't like the way that the verdict went out. So if I made a mistake, just know it was for a good reason. I unbanned you. You're good. Just worried about little racism in the chat, okay? I'm just like worried.
So one of the things that, this became kind of he said, she said. She said that he tried to push her he said she tried to push him. So how did you figure that out? How did you determine what happened?
The determination about...
All right, all good, Chad. I see you. You said, yeah, you're making jokes about security. Okay, my bad. Look at us. Okay, we're good.
What happened at the end was that we had to compare both testimonies from both of the people that were involved in the incident at the Palipuca Trail. So based on Konig's testimony and putting it side by side by Dr. Konig's testimony, and kind of just finding out what matches and what doesn't, finding a timeline and seeing the crime scene for what it was, and kind of making a decision from there.
So why didn't you find him? Like, who did you believe?
Our belief was based on the definition of the counts.
So did you believe that he tried to push her?
The pushing part was not really anything that we were determining on, because they both said they pushed each other. So we definitely agreed that a push occurred.
But that they pushed each other, and not so much that one tried to throw the other one off the cliff.
Correct. We know that both bodies touched each other on the cliff.
Okay, so then why attempted manslaughter and not attempted murder?
The reason for attempted manslaughter, I think, came down to the reality of that of what the testimony said. So there was definitely a scuffle that was that had happened at that location on the Palipuca that resulted in somebody having bodily image. I'm so sorry.
That's
Can I
okay.
start over?
Yes,
okay.
Of course.
Okay, yeah. So we did determine that there was definitely a scuffle on top of the Palipuca Trail that resulted in an injury to the head that could be bodily injury and serious.
So you believe that he struck her with the rock. How many times do you think that happened?
In his testimony, he did state that he hit her with the rock 2 times.
And did you believe that, or do you think it was more?
I think the valid evidence of that we were presented could stipulate that that she was definitely hit twice. So, that was a definite.
How professional. She's being so professional about it, right? Where she's answering very much based off the facts and none of her opinion, which is technically what you're supposed to do as a juror. My assumption is the audience didn't like my response because they didn't like the professionalism of the jurors. Whether we like it or not, this isn't about your opinion, right? It is about the evidence. And so though we can assume and guess, even though we have our opinions, she's not stating any of her opinions because this isn't about her opinion. She could go home tonight and be like, oh, he fucking did it. He's an asshole. I hate him. I wish he got more time. But her opinion doesn't change what the evidence was.
So, so you found him guilty of attempted manslaughter, and that was based on your reading of the instruction.
Manslaughter with due to emotional distress or disturbance.
And what evidence did you find of emotional distress and disturbance?
In both testimonies, they both had showed that there was relationship issues that there had begun prior to this situation on Palipuca Trail, and that they were outside of their Maui County location, enjoying time together to build their relationship up.
So you thought it was related to the relationship?
Chad said, were there medical records as evidence? There were, and the medical doctors, she's stating basically what the medical doctors said in the evidence, like that they were hit at least 3 times, couldn't necessarily say more than that, that there was, proof of aerials, DNA on the rock, that, there were definitely all of these testimonies that led up to this. And so I think, what I'm hearing from her is her just literally almost regurgitating what the professional witnesses also stated.
Well, they were up there as a couple, so yes.
Okay. So why didn't you think that he was trying to kill her, ultimately?
Ultimately, we just agreed that per the instructions that we were given and the definitions that we were set to look at and focus on, that somebody was definitely hurt with a bodily injury to a head that could result in serious bodily injury.
Okay. And
I mean this in the most respectful way. I think it's giving very autism, which I like, but I think if a group of autistic people had this panel, they'd come to the same conclusion. Because they would be like, if it would just be very much the facts. Somebody definitely tried to give bodily harm. You can't know intent because you can't read minds. Based off the evidence, she probably would have died, whether he intended her to die or he was moving in that moment, right? It's the same thing. Like, let's say you have two guys at the bar and they're fighting and the other guy swings hard enough to kill and the guy dies. Would you say he intended to kill him? No, you would say he was manslaughter for the same reason. They were under distress, they were fighting, they were arguing, but he didn't intend for him to die, but he died. That's what they're thinking happened with this, that Gerhardt didn't intend to kill her, even though we might have an opinion that he did. They're saying there's no evidence of that. In the same way that, you would have to read his mind in order to know. Because remember, if the syringe was found on the mountain, I think it would have changed things. I do believe, though, the way he reacted to the nurses coming upon them, in my mind, was proof that it was also, he wanted to kill her. I don't know if he intended to kill her there and then, which I think added to the passion situation. And I think if he had gotten Ariel to the point he wanted to get her to, then it would have been, quote, premeditated more based off the evidence. And I think that's the issue. It's like, the issue is almost that Ariel didn't die, or the issue is almost that Ariel didn't get up to the point where he wanted her. It was almost like, and this is the hard part about real life, is it doesn't work like the movies. Real life is weirder than movies, and people do weird things. He couldn't have known Ariel wasn't going to continue the hike. He could not have realized Ariel was going to say, I don't want to keep going. There was nothing to indicate in his mind that she would have done that. So if he even had the plan to kill her, his plan was out the window. And so he could have in that moment just desperately tried to kill her then, which kind of would have almost made it now not premeditated, because that's not how we planned to do it, even though it's technically premeditated. It's kind of interesting, humans.
What did you take from his testimony about the affair? I mean, the defense really hammered at the fact that she had an affair. Did you find evidence of an affair, or were you not sure about that?
I mean, there was a lot of evidence presented from both sides that were put before both Dr. Konig and Ariel Konig. And in her testimony, she did admit to having some sort of an affair. And so that admission alone does say that an affair had been had.
She admitted it was an emotional affair she agreed to because Gerhardt wanted it. So she didn't admit she agreed it was an emotional affair. She agreed it was an emotional affair for Gerhardt, which is, some people won't see that as a difference.
And so what did you take from that? Did you think that inflamed the situation? Do you think that was the root of his emotional distress?
I'm not necessarily sure if that was the root, but I do commonly believe that somebody that's been married to someone for 8 years, in a relationship for that long, and having some kind of affair happen after having 2 young kids under the age of 2 might have some kind of emotional disturbance on both sides.
I see. And what do you think ultimately, what kind of punishment do you think would be justice in this case?
No punishment, because I don't believe in punishment. See, our language is so casual. What kind of punishment should he get? Nothing. He shouldn't get punishment. He should be held responsible. These are not the same thing.
I'm not really sure about the punishment aspect. We were just told to look at what the charges were and if they held any water based on the evidence. However, we are aware that a sentence will be made in August regarding this, which is why the stipulation of emotional distress was tagged onto the manslaughter, so that we hope that whatever information that they can gather before August 13th is able to give a justified sentence per the judge, and that any type of help for both sides, emotional-wise, can be had.
Okay, a few things. Chat says, would love a discuss or deep dive on how men abandoning, harming, killing women on hikes. Okay, so this is interesting because I think this all relates. Look, men have not needed to abandon their women in the mountains to kill them. Men have been doing it for thousands of years in the comfort of their homes. I do think the internet, because I looked into this, I think the internet might have gotten away with itself a little bit, in the sense that this isn't interesting as it sounds. It only sounds interesting because we're bored with the men killing women in their houses. but it's not any different. It's just another way to murder their wives. A man taking a woman hiking and then leaving her to die is just murder. It's just a little bit more work. So I think like, right, I think people are overblowing it because it's going viral on the internet. But when I looked into it, it's not that interesting or that common. You know what I'm saying? So I know it feels like there's a lot of recent cases, but it's not new. And it's not any worse or interesting than a man killing his woman in his house. So I think like when we have these conversations, I worry that with good intentions, we are also playing into, oh, isn't this interesting? Women are being abandoned on mountains. And that's a little bit what people sound like to me because they've already been doing this. It's already happened in people's homes. It is just as disturbing wherever it happens. And I mean, how long have we been told not to get into cars with strangers or go hiking with men alone? Right? You know not to go hiking with men alone. What's more interesting is when men take their wives on vacations to kill them, but like they've already been doing this, right? They've already been doing this. So I do caution the internet from picking up on a trending topic and running with it like it's unique or different instead of just saying what it is, which is, hey, this thing men have been doing for thousands of years. Here's one of the ways they do it. They could do it not only just inside the home, but they also do it in the form of camping with their wives, right? You know, so just make sure that when we talk about it, we're saying, hey, this is not unique or interesting. This is not different. This is still the same thing it's always been, which is women coming at the expense of everyone's entertainment and the entitlement of people to kill their wives. Right? Now, I will say, and this is sort of the problem, I don't want to then evoke fear in people that they shouldn't go hiking with their husbands because you shouldn't even be marrying a man you feel unsafe with anyways. He can kill you in his house as much as he can kill you on a hike. I think something happened to our brains for a second there on the internet where people just like really thought this was like, oh my God, what if you're on a hike with a man? What if you're in the car with a man? What if you're in the shower with a man? What if the man is inside you? Like, you know what I'm saying, girls? Like, you're sleeping with men. You're marrying men. You're having children with men. He doesn't have to take you on a hike, girl. He's going to strangle you right there. They do it all the time. So, okay, men as individuals, trouble. Men as systems, trouble. Men as individuals who've deconstructed systems, less trouble. Better people, more thoughtful, more considerate, more interesting, more accessible, more safe. And then also, like, what is gender really? Like, I would love it in the future if we didn't even date men and women. I mean, not that they don't exist, but I would love to live in a future where, like, we're not even worried about dating men or women. But how are we ever going to get there if we don't start deconstructing what it is to be a man or a woman? Right? And that's the problem. Now, to be fair, and I think this is kind of what's interesting. Hold on, I got a comment in one of my in my video about gender and the way that people even in progressive movements see gender and sex, which is pretty difficult. Let me see. Hold on. Let me look at it. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, this one's interesting. It says, I think the question is, can we deconstruct a system based on male supremacy from which the gender binary flows? Men are made to oppress, benefit, and women are taught to accept, celebrate their oppression. Hold on. Can you guys see this? Yeah. Without acknowledging sex. I would love to live in a sexless world, but that's just not reality. Even if I would live in a gender deconstructed world, my sex would still be there and should be accounted for. I can identify as non-binary or agender, but my body will still exist in a biological and political reality. Okay, so first you liberate the spirit from the gendered perspective. Then you incorporate that liberated spirit into a non-liberated world. Your sex being a factor isn't a factor in all social situations, but in some social situations. It is only a factor depending on how you are being interacted with. Yes, it is always on the forefront of our minds. And yes, it isn't exactly the way we've been taught to think of it as well. So yes, I think it's just irrational. It's just as silly to think we're going to live in a world where people aren't racist as it is to live in a world where people aren't misogynistic. That doesn't mean we don't aim for that world, because it's possible. It's just not probable, right? And that's what we aim for. We aim for the possible, like going to the moon. Even though it's not probable, we aim for the possibility. And sometimes we make, we accomplish something, right? and we move forward. So 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Okay. So I think what I want to look forward to is a world in which we see the sex as just another category of person, instead of, now that you're this sex, you're all of these things attached to this sex. Or, oh, now that you're this gender, you're attached to all of these things. I would love to live in a world where that wasn't the forefront of our minds. But the problem is that we do exist in a world where a lot of us are living in completely different bubbles with completely different perspectives, with completely different facts, with completely different subjective opinions. And we're trying to live together on this shared planet. Okay. So we're dealing with a lot here. Humanity is dealing with a lot. And because we're animals evolved over time, we can only do it at the pace we can do it at. So, you know, this case, I guess the way that I will in any way watch true crime with you guys, if I move forward in the future to continue watching it, is always from that philosophical lens of, right? How do you balance a good, healthy society, a reaction to injustice, and seeking the right form of justice? So again, because we're viewing systems and because we have a legal system and there's a framework and rules, I accept the verdict. And the verdict is within reason, fine, based off of how the system works. Ideally, and this is what I think should have happened, we should have had more time. I think in the year presented, there wasn't enough evidence to say like a 100% or even enough percent necessarily that he had planned it for a long time. But there was enough to say that he would have killed her if nobody had come upon them, right? I think they should have gone prior. His wife, the co-workers, his friends, other people. Why did they spend the whole case talking about Ariel's character and none of Gerhardt's? Why was her character on trial and not his? That was the mistake they made. They didn't spend enough time with his past, his relationship with co-workers. What is he hiding? And I think that was the mistake they made. Because I don't think they had a perfect marriage and then all of a sudden it was awful. What marriage issues? They didn't even go into it in the trial. I was waiting to hear from a therapist, their couples therapist, like, what was the issue in your marriage? What were the problems you were having, right? So I don't think they spent enough time. So given the circumstance, I can see why the jury made their decision. That is the fault of the prosecution, which I guess their job wasn't to, necessarily display his character. It was just to prove if he tried to kill Ariel. But I think that would have helped. You know what I mean? I'm sure that would have helped, And I think that's the problem that we had in this situation. So I can understand. So what I'm doing when I think about my reaction to things, I'm taking all of that into consideration. And I guarantee you 99% of the people on the internet aren't doing that because 99% of you aren't deeply, into philosophical work as it is shown. The world doesn't think philosophy is interesting. But if you understand it from a philosophical perspective, it's expected because people come to rights and wrongs, their ethics and morals. That's what philosophy is about, ethics and morals, okay? They have a very structured idea of it. So it's going to be a split jury. The people who think texting another person is an affair automatically, and the people who think it's not an affair, right? And a majority of people are probably going to think it's cheating. And to be fair, it is cheating if that's what they negotiated. To be fair, depending on the context of those text messages and me asking why, it could be cheating or it could not be cheating. And the dilemma is, I don't know which one it was because I didn't get a clear answer from anybody. I got Gerhardt, who reacted absolutely abnormally. I didn't get the input from friends. I didn't get the input from Ariel. Ariel, are you allowed to text men good morning? I didn't get any clear answer because most of the world doesn't even know what cheating is. You guys haven't sat down to negotiate it because you don't even think about it. Because you think cheating is only having sex with other people. Cheating can be a lot of things. And also, is the rule you're putting down in your marriage even good? Just because a person, I used to have a partner who tried this once. I had a partner who tried this once. I had a partner who, he would try to implement rules. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. He's like, but that's my boundary. I'm like, okay, we'll break up then. He's like, I don't want to break up with you. I just want that to be my boundary. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to marry somebody who has those values. And we would argue. And I was like, don't you understand? We're not compatible. He'd be like, no, we are. And I was young and I was like trying to work it out. Just because you put it down doesn't mean it's good. Like just because he is like, you should never text another man good morning doesn't mean that's a good value or that she agreed to that, right? Again, everyone gets to have their own rule. But I feel like because human beings aren't even having those conversations yet, we don't even know how to even review this as a jury or as a community. Because I'll give you an example. I didn't want to say this the other day because I wanted to think about it a little longer. You know how Ariel, so you know how the prosecution and even the chat was like, why would Ariel bring up on their date, on her birthday, on this hike, why would she bring up the guy she was having the text messaging with, Jeff or whatever? Why would she bring that up? And then why? Because, you know, he got mad over it. He was like really angry she brought it up. And even prosecution was like, why would she bring that up? Do you guys remember what I'm talking about? She was going on a work trip and she needed him to know and be okay with the fact that she would see him again for work, which, okay. Do you remember that social interaction they had that led to allegedly him trying to push her off the cliff? Okay. A lot of people were like, why would she bring that up? That doesn't make sense. And transparently, truthfully, why wouldn't she bring it up? Human beings famously bring up things at the worst time possible. I've been in the middle of sex and I'm like, hey, we need to have a serious talk, actually. I've been like, you know, people head to funerals and they're like, hey, I got to tell you something. Why wouldn't she talk about it? She's on a date with her husband. Yes, they're not supposed to talk about it outside of therapy, but like humans are going to human, they're going to be flawed. Why wouldn't she talk about it? Like, am I the only one that's been in intimate relationships where like we just talk about it? Why wouldn't I talk about it? We're alone. It's just us. The kids aren't here. Why wouldn't I talk about it? We're on a hike together, but why wouldn't I bring it up? Right? Like, I didn't understand that perspective because, again, I'm like, am I the only one that feels like that made total sense for her to bring it up? What didn't make sense was his reaction. What didn't make sense was him. That makes sense from her perspective. You know, hey, I've been really nervous to tell you this thing. We're alone for the first time. I just want to tell you this thing. Like, why wouldn't she tell him? His reaction was the problem. And that's the point that I didn't like, because what that did is, in anyone's mind that's been in a relationship long enough, it feels like a lie. At least to me, it felt like a lie. And I was like, why would the prosecution say that? Why would you say that? Because I'm sure a juror sat there and said, why wouldn't they talk about that? Now she sounds like a liar. Because why wouldn't she talk? Now, because he said, why would Ariel bring this up? He's lying. Who cares if she brought it up? Why did you want her to push her off the cliff? Because she brought it up. Do you know what I'm saying? Why would you kill her because she brought up a work event? You know, Chad says, yeah, a hike is kind of the time to talk and air things out. That's what I'm saying. What a perfect time to talk about things. You're alone. It's romantic. You're kind of bonding. It's intimate. Guys, a real marriage talks about hard conversations. A real marriage, a close relationship, you talk about hard things even on romantic trips. I've never been on a romantic trip where serious conversations didn't happen. Because you're adults. Life happens. I've never been on a vacation where like we don't talk about serious topics. I don't even know what that means. You know what I mean? Like, you're still adults. Your life you don't zap into like a bubble that doesn't exist or something. The world is still happening around you. You know, so it felt weird that people didn't think. So I think that adds to the deception feeling or the weird way that people talk about these things. But yeah, I think that part stood out to me as well, right? Jess said, I feel like the court didn't take into consideration that we are human beings with different neurology and we communicate differently. They were so unsure about the underlying reason for how they interacted. Oh, exactly. And the way they expressed their interactions were so silly. But that's why he was weird. That's why Gerhardt was so weird. Because I'm like, why are you acting so strange? Like, why didn't anybody ask him, why did you react that way to finding the messages? Like, what specifically about the messages made you so angry? And then the only thing he said to any response about the messages was that this is not the way a woman should talk to someone who isn't her husband. By what standard? Was that discussed? Did you make that clear to her? You know what I mean? Like, by what standard? And I feel like sometimes that was what was missing from the whole thing, was like, why is nobody talking about how weird he is? Which for me stood out to me for why I think he was unnecessarily angry at her, which to me indicated I think he was having an affair. Like, I think he was doing something else. Like, I think he had something going on, because his reaction was ridiculous. It was just a ridiculous reaction to, if he had just said, hey, that really hurt my feelings. I'm not sure what's going on. Can you please talk to me about it? I love you. I'm so upset about these messages and I just don't understand what it is. Can you talk to me? It was, I'm going to stalk her. I'm going to harass. I'm going to tell our friends. I'm going to steal her WhatsApp to get messages in real time. Like he absolutely started to really, I think, hate this woman. So him trying to kill her makes sense to me, because I think it makes sense because he reacted so ridiculously to the initial whatever he wants to call it, affair, that he reacted so crazy again. And then it doesn't help that some people might even engage in like, rhetoric that says like, again, cheating is abusive because it comes at the expense of everybody, but it's like, it's a very specific type of abuse. Not all categories of cheating are the same, but most of the time when I'm talking about cheating, I'm talking about like a deliberate decision to go behind my partner's back and engage in infidelity that breaks the trust of the marriage, which I did not quite see from Ariel, which is why I was confused. I did see a woman having a connection with a coworker as a friend, in which maybe that alone felt like an affair, but I think she would have been able to have the same conversation with a girl and nobody would have thought anything of it. If this was the same way she talked to, that's the other thing I wanted, was like, from her bestie, how does she text her bestie? Because I bet it was worse. I bet she tells her bestie, like, he's so fucking angry. I'm so sick of him today. He's so annoying to me. Like, he's being so rude to the kids and me today. Like, that's why her bestie called him a monster. Because I bet the bestie knows something. And that's why I'm like, where's the bestie's text messages? Because nothing in Jeff's text messages gave me any indication she was thinking about leaving him, was wanting to be with Jeff. Like, nothing in the messages were about them being together. You know what I'm saying? So I don't get it. Like, what? Like, I have been in toxic relationships where I've hidden my messages from my partners, obviously. We weren't married, to be fair. But like, where I had code words with friends, or like, he's in the room. Or I'd be talking to my girls. Like, I remember when my partner cheated on me, we had been long distance at the time, and I came to visit. I was visiting once a month, and I came to visit, and he told me, hey, I've been sleeping with somebody, I've been having an affair. And I'm like, oh. And I was like so shocked. It was like so shocking. I also came to see my friends. So I was like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home. He's like, no, don't go home. Don't go home. Please stay with me. And I was like, I just don't understand. Like, we've done so much. I've been trying so hard. I don't understand why you did this. I was lonely. Okay. I go to socialize with my friends that same night. Okay. Or maybe the day after. Maybe it was the day after. Anyways, I'm sitting on the couch with my girlfriends. Okay. And I'm like, he cheated with so-and-so. And they were like, oh my God. I was like, bro. And you remember, we're all poly. Everyone I'm talking to is poly. Cheating still occurs in poly. And they were like, oh my God, why would he do that? And they know this person, they know they're, unsafe. And like, why would you do that? And I was like, what was he thinking? He walks into the room and we all stop talking, and he knows we're talking about him, but also it's like, you know what you did. You know what I mean? I feel like in that situation, there's like this weird thing that happens where people believe they shouldn't talk about what's happening in their marriage when it's abusive, because they think it's a violation of the marriage. You shouldn't talk about your marriage when things aren't abusive with your friends. If you're having private relationships with your partner and your partner tells you something vulnerable about themselves, like childhood trauma, and then you go tell your girlfriends, you're fucked up. Like, that's sacred between you and your married partner. Okay. If your partner is abusing you, cheating on you, you better go tell your girlfriends. You got to go tell somebody, because you are being abused, right? But if your partner's coming to you, if you guys are going through like a cancer diagnosis together and they don't want to tell people, you got to tell like a therapist or somebody, but like, you're not allowed, you can't go tell people your partner has cancer, because, you got to tell somebody that, that's their medical right to keep that private. You can't violate their consent. But if they're cheating on you and they give you an STI, you can go tell people. You know what I mean? So I think there's some issue here where people don't know the difference between what they tell their girlfriends and what they don't tell their girlfriends. Also, none of this applies to people we're dating. If we're just dating and we're not married, we're not committed, you are on trial. So though I think even while courting and dating, you should be cautious with what you share, there's a little bit of a caveat here. Okay? So it depends on the social context, of course. Okay? But I'm concerned because I don't talk, like, one of the key reasons my family is like, oh my God, you're so happy in your marriage, you never call and talk about it. I was like, I know. It's because in all my past relationships, I would call my family all the time to talk about my relationships and how bad they were. I've never once made that call to my family. And they're like, holy shit, it must be going good. I was like, yeah, bro. And then when they come and hang out with us, they're like, oh my God, you guys are so like complimentary. I'm like, I know. Because you can have a healthy relationship. You get to have that. I want to know with Gerhardt what people around them thought of their marriage. I just don't believe it was good. I think family and friends did not think they were happy. I think somebody thought something, or they're so white and so waspy, nobody ever knew anything because nobody ever talks about anything. But if her bestie, they had a cheating moment and Gerhardt in his head said, well, my friend cheated on his wife, so I'm going to go talk to him about it. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny that he went and confided in a cheater to get advice about, you know what I'm saying? Isn't that funny that he didn't go to the person who was wounded by the cheating? He went to the cheater. Kind of interesting. You know? So I get it. I get lines can get blurred. I get you're vibing with a coworker. One thing leads to another. And then you realize, oh, I think we crossed the line. I recently heard about women having affairs with like TikTok comments. Like I don't remember where I heard it, but it was like a woman was caught cheating, got lost in TikTok comments, became friends with the commenters, and one thing led to another, and her and this like username basically started a relationship. And I think that's happening to a lot of people. But don't you think that's like mental health and all these other things? Like, who is having a full-on affair with a username, girls? What's happening? Okay. So now we're in layers of like mental health and also like how you were raised and also like the fantasy of it all. I think a lot of men do this too. I think a lot of men have full-blown relationships with usernames. And I'm like, hello? Why are we having full-blown relationships with usernames? And that's just an indication of the meaning crisis. This is all philosophy. Nothing is more of an indication of a meaning crisis to me than people having full-on relationships with usernames. AI boyfriends and girlfriends. We're in a deep meaning crisis, okay? And we've been in one for thousands of years. Thousands of years. Before AI, there were different versions of getting lost in the username. So yeah, I'm glad the juror spoke out. There wasn't much here, you know, but I will just say, like, I'm not surprised. Now, one thing I do want to do, though, is I want to read the comments. Even the reporter appears dumbfounded. They didn't even consider the son's testimony. What is this, right? What does that mean? They didn't even consider the son's testimony. Oh, it's not loading. Hello? Let's see. It was attempted murder. Scuffle, he tried to bash her head in and kill her. It's called attempted murder. Wow, it's terrifying. This is how they interpreted what happened. They believed him over her and his son. Unbelievable. Yeah, doesn't this, again, sometimes I want to have like adult conversations in a way that doesn't feel like, guys, those are your opinions, right? I agree opinion-wise. I don't agree legally. And that's the problem with systems, is we have to figure out to fix systems how it relates to our values. But I feel like this is just your opinions. Like, oh my God, they believed him over the son. They didn't believe him. They convicted him of being guilty. What they did, right, is they used the evidence. And the problem is, like, there's a lot of pressure here. I agree our opinions are that he tried to kill her, which they agree she would have died, right? You know, it says, I know not every juror is going to be incredible, but holy fuck. I hope the judge realizes the need to sentence him to 20 years simply for the safeties of present and future victims. I do think this, though. I think I am concerned for when he gets out, people who will interact with him and don't know. I'm concerned for Ariel and the son. I am concerned he will seek revenge. I am concerned about all of that, right? I am concerned about all of that, right? This is when he tries to kill her again, remember today? Yeah, sure. I agree. We should be concerned. I also agree the prosecution did wrong for not going after his credibility more. Because they did just, I told you, didn't I tell you the doubt the defense attorney planted in their head was enough? Didn't I tell you human psychology 101? Didn't I call it? Didn't I say they weren't going to get him on the more extreme charges because the seed of doubt is enough? How many times am I going to tell you this? This is psychological warfare. You can be angry about it all day, but $10 says half of these comment sections voted for Trump. Half of these comment sections have cheated on their partners. Half of these comment sections hit their kids. That's the problem with these comment sections. I know for a fact you are not a perfect person. And you have your own shit. And you, if you were in that jury, might have made a similar decision. You think standing on the sidelines, you're perfect. And I'm telling you, if we're going to view this as what it is, matter of fact, the fact is the jurors are people. They have their own personal biases and prejudice. They did the best they could. And this was it. If you want it to be different, start with yourself. Because right now I see you attacking people instead of go ahead, go do jury duty. How many of these people got out of jury duty? Oh, I'll do you one more solid. How many of the people that are mad at these jurors have always done their best to get out of jury duty? Go ahead. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the problem. You think you're better versus saying to yourself, okay, my personal opinion is that he tried to kill her. I'm upset that they weren't able to prove that with evidence, but I'm relieved they at least got him for something, which is the reasonable and rational reaction. Okay? After hearing this, I'm surprised the jury didn't ask for coloring books each. See how they're making fun of the jurors? Oh my God, you guys need binkies and diapers? It's like, okay. She didn't watch the same trial I did. Unbelievable. No words. See? This is what I'm saying. We wonder why the world is the way that it is. It's because adults are stupid. And we're a part of that group. We're very stupid. Right? That's the problem. Okay? That's the problem with all of us. Look at this comment that he admitted he tried to kill her. No, he didn't. Did he admit he tried to kill her? He didn't admit that. That was the point. He didn't admit it. He said he hit her. He didn't say he tried to kill her. He literally said, no, I did not try to kill her. I did not bring her up here to kill her. You're empowering him by not doing right by the jurors. Because again, I can get upset with jurors too, and I can understand the problem is us as a society. You cannot get good jurors if you do not have a good justice system, if you do not have a good education system, if you do not deconstruct misogyny and bigotry as well, and if you do not have nuanced perspectives on cheating. Yes, you can be mad at the jurors, but you should be upset for the world, mad and angry for the world, and do something in your communities to do better. Because the situation shouldn't have happened anyways. His parents also shouldn't have been behind him, supporting him. We also shouldn't have had this situation occur in the first place. Again, I understand that these people feel like, oh, if I was there, I would have done better. Like, wow, if I was involved this, but then do it in your life. Do it in your life. I agree. I think he tried to kill her. But then show up in your life and do better by the people in your community, because this is a result of our communities. This is the result of how we raise men. This is the result of patriarchy. This is the result of so much, right? That's the thing. I get it. Chad said, I think they're referring to the FaceTime with Emil. Yes, but even if they're referring to that phone call with Emil, now we have to believe Emil was correct, which I do, and we didn't hear it. We have no evidence it happened. What's interesting to me is that what would be more interesting to me is if we had that recording, but we don't, because they're not recording our FaceTime calls, at least not that we're aware of, because that would have been interesting, but that's not evidence. Emil saying that isn't evidence. It's a witness, which is, again, good enough for most of us, but isn't evidence. It still leaves doubt in the minds of people, right? I agree, I believe Emil, but I believe victims. We are raised in a world that doesn't believe victims. You know what I'm saying? It's just easy to say like, oh, well, it's not evidence. It's good, but it's not the same thing, Which is frustrating. You should be frustrated, but you should take it out on the legal system, not on the jurors, right? We need to take it out on the legal system. You need to get up and vote. You need to dismantle the system. It's not the jurors. It's us. It's the system. Okay? Same with the Diddy case. That man who said, I couldn't imagine Diddy being abusive or truly sex trafficking Cassie if she went back to him, that's misogyny. That's victim blaming. That's patriarchy. And that was a man of color. See how being a minority isn't enough? You need to deconstruct your own biases. It is not enough. None of us are born with the ultimate wisdom. All of us must earn our wisdom. We must earn our wisdom. And it's really, really difficult when we all sit here and think we know better. So I'm saying be kind to the jurors. They did their best. But if you're really upset, turn that into activism and become a protester. But you won't. You probably won't. And that's the problem with humanity. If you're this upset, do something about it. Okay? Do something, right? That's what I would like to see. I would like to see this inspire people to go out and be better people. But you're probably just going to keep being angry on the internet because that's way much more fun, right? I get it. You know? Yeah, misplaced anger. Chat says misplaced anger. Misplaced anger. Be angry at the injustice of the system. Because our opinions are different, right? Because it's weird that they even asked him if it doesn't make a difference, though. Well, it can make a difference, though. Not that it always makes a difference. Like, Emil, you mean? Is that what you mean? Like, it does make a difference. It means it made a difference to me, right? To me. But that's the problem. Is like, we're doing this thing again where sometimes I feel like this is what I mean by radical acceptance. There's no practice of radical acceptance here. So then we're working off our emotions instead of like what this means. This is why people are radically asking for us to change the system. It's not working. And it's not working because all of us have problems. We are the reason it's not working. We're the reason it exists. It's the reason it maintains. Right? And so I would like to encourage people, right, to do better. I said, what's the point of testimony in the first place then? You said not arguing with a bit, just the whole thing, you know? No, I know you're not arguing with me, but I'm confused. What don't you guys know about how the world works that is keeping you confused? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying there's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the world works that is missing from your knowledge bank, and I'm trying to give it to you. Right? And I don't know what's missing. This is how court works. There's a system in place. Testimony is important. It might move a jury, but it doesn't guarantee an outcome. The jurors all have to agree on a verdict to come to a verdict. So even if 80% of the jurors think he should have gotten degree in the first, right? Or intentional premeditated murder. It doesn't matter if you can't get everyone to agree. So we don't know. We don't know what jurors in that office wanted him to get life, wanted him to get the most punishment. We don't know, right? Because you still got to get everyone to agree. People settle in juries all the time. People like agree to disagree all the time. I'm saying this is the flawed issue of the system, but the witnesses are important. Emil testifying is very important. And it's also important for people watching. It's important for the people in that courtroom. It's important for Emil. It's important for Ariel. It's important for everybody, right? So when we're having these conversations and we ask these rhetorical questions, which I think are good too, right? Like, well, what's the point of it then? The point is we don't have a better system in place, but we should make one, right? Chat says, did they rule that he actually did try to kill her? I don't know if the language thing, but it sounded to me like his son said he told her that he tried to kill her, not that he planned it. Well, that's the dilemma, right? Is like, language is nuanced. Language is hard. Like, what did you mean by that? What did you mean by that? What did you mean by that? Yeah, I think that's the part of the fuzziness, right? You know? You know, I think sometimes when we have these conversations, it makes it look like if we argue the wrong thing, or are we expressing an emotion that says, I'm so upset? Or are we saying, these jurors are bad people, they should have done it better? Are we saying, oh man, I hate that for them, the system should be different? Are we saying, I would have done different, I know better? Are you saying that you would have been the one to convince everybody in that room to vote the way you would have voted? Like, have you ever convinced 12 people to do anything? You know what I mean? Like, when we express our frustrations with the system, what are we expressing? Good, these are philosophical questions. These aren't anything more than that. These are philosophical questions, right? We're saying, like, what is this magical thing? Not you guys, the audience, but maybe this audience, the one that was questioning things. What are they fantasizing about in this situation that goes, if I was there, I'd convince them? You know what I mean? It's like, what is the thing so that's why I always say to people, like, hey, I want to express something that I don't mean, but I'm going to emote it and I want us to deconstruct it. I'm going to express that I'm so annoyed and frustrated at the verdict, but also so one of the questions I got was, I don't get what Brittany's reaction. They don't get why I'm not upset with the verdict. Why are you upset? Is the next question. The question shouldn't be, why is Brittany not upset? The question is, why are you upset? Because I know why I'm not upset. I've already done all the work to react in a way that says, I already have my logic. What's your logic? You know what I mean? That's what it is. Right? Just getting a D&D group to agree on a date to meet up is like pulling teeth, bro. Wait, let me see. Let me go here. Let me see. Hold on. This is my original video. It says Hawaii doctor found. Hold on. These are the comments. I cried too. Happy tears. His hike searches alone would have convinced me. Remember the Harold Henthorne case, Rocky Mountain National Park? I don't, but can I just tell you guys this? Again, I don't know if you guys are not like normal people, but to be honest with you, his hike searchers were not enough. I know this because my brothers actively hike. One of my brothers goes to 14 different countries and has hiked every country he's been to. You will Google most dangerous hikes because it's interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like him Googling what a dangerous hike, like, okay, that alone is not evidence. That alone is not enough. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not enough. That's why when people are like, oh, this would have convinced me alone. How? Jesus, are we all secret murderers? Are we all secret murderers? Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to, like, God forbid. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not enough. For me, what convinced me was all of the evidence, was everything together. That's what convinced me. Everything, the full picture, right? It wasn't one thing, not one thing. It was all of it together. You know, so when we sit there, we go, oh, this one thing in isolation convinced me. How? How could you? How? You know, that just doesn't even make sense. You know, everyone's like, oh, the way he talked. Oh, great. Like ableism doesn't constantly do this to people. Minorities don't constantly get picked up by cops because of the way they talk. Come on, think. You know, not you guys, but these comments, think of what you're saying. Oh, I don't like the way he's talking. I don't like the way he's sitting. I don't like the way he's looking at me. Okay, girl, get a hobby. Close your eyes. You know what I mean? Like, again, like when we have these conversations and we say things, this is the problem with everything we're doing. And like, this is why I caveat with everything I'm saying. Like, hey, I'm neurodivergent. I understand people say things differently. I understand they have anxieties. I understand they have twitches and movement. We said that when Gerhardt was moving too much, right? We get it, but be careful. Chat says the Depp and Amber Heard case. What was exactly? Nobody liked the way Amber Heard was on stand. They didn't like the way she cried. They didn't like the way she was. And they were like, she must be guilty. She looks like a liar. Now, I understand emotionally we're saying it's giving liar, but I'd hope in this community we would actually be like, this is why I think he's lying, instead of, I just hate his face. Though I understand the emotional statement of I hate his face, I get it. Like, Gerhardt, if he wasn't Gerhardt, he'd be fine. We wouldn't even notice him. We wouldn't even hate his face. We don't hate his face. It's a statement of emotion, right? You know what I mean? You know? So this comment here says, and I liked a bunch of these comments so they know, like, I get you, right? Chet said, me too. I don't understand why she was so late and emotional with this verdict. And someone said, because at least he's going to wait for a little while. By the time he gets out, the little ones will be grown. So she has no longer to fear him showing up at her home for a foreseeable future. She hasn't breathed in a year. It's like, yeah, like, why is she so elated and emotional with this verdict? Because at least he's away for a while. It could have literally been not guilty. I think people are really underestimating how easily it could have been a not guilty. In this system as it is, I was 100% ready for a not guilty. So that's how low the bar is. Do you know what I'm saying? I fully came into that verdict assuming he would be not guilty. Because I just didn't, you know what I mean? It's like, I've seen it happen so many times. It's like, well, now again, I agree it's not good enough in a sense. And I also see how we got here, you know? So it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, okay, we can do something about this now. Now he has a record. Now he's going to go to prison. Now he's going to be a felon. And now we can do all of the other things that can follow. Now there's a consequence. Now he's going to lose his license. He won't be a medical doctor. Great. Now she can move, get a restraining order. Great. Now he can't get custody of the kids, right? And most likely will never have to father them. Great. There's a lot of benefits to this, you know, because you could imagine if the jury was already giving him the lowest possible sentence, it could have literally been this much closer to not guilty altogether. So, in this system, I was like, okay, I'll take it. And I also understand why people are upset. Like, I think you're valid to be upset. I think it's interesting, though, and I want you to do the work to understand why I am like, okay. A part of it is accepting the world for what it is, like a radical acceptance. And then saying, how do we in the future make sure this doesn't happen? Because a lot of unnecessary things led up to this situation. And by the way, this is why I talk about settling in relationships, right? When we talk about settling in relationships, I guarantee you, Ariel and Gerhardt settled in multiple ways for their relationship. And in many ways, it should never have happened. In many ways, and this is the part that's so interesting to me, they were together for how long before they even had kids? You know? So when we have conversations like this, my thought is always like, how did we get here? How did we get here that this is the situation? And why did we even get to the point where he felt so emboldened to like read her text messages and to keep track of them? That alone, okay, should have been a question of his character and his sanity. But too many of you are stalkers. Too many y'all are Googling people. Too many of you are snooping through people's emails. Too many of you are you think you're playing detective. I bet half the people in that jury went, oh, I go through my guy's phone. Why are you going through people's phones? Because if you weren't fucking weirdos who went through people's phones, you would know that was weird of him. That was fucking weird of him. Why are you going through people's phones? But we romanticize it. We normalize it. Oh, I go through his phone. I have to check it. Why? Again, there's a difference between, you using your partner's phone, you engaging in their online history, you being like, hey, can we go over some stuff? And you sneaking around your partner's back. You know how many TikToks I see of, oh, my partner went to the bathroom and he's oh, I'm going to try to get into his phone. What are you doing? What are you doing? Don't you understand all these things are impacting the jury? The jury who's like, yeah, I go through people. So his character couldn't even be considered icky to people who have normalized this behavior as good. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, the best part of reviewing these things is to remind you how we all suck as a humanity, because we've normalized so much of it that we don't even see what he did as wrong. Except I do, and you do. And I pointed it out. That's wrong. He's stalking her. But how many people would not consider what he did stalking? Go ahead. How many people? A lot. almost everyone, I bet you almost 9 out of 10 people would consider what he did not stalking. They would say it was fair because he caught her cheating. They would say the ends justify the means. They would say, but he did catch her cheating, didn't he? And I was like, well, up for debate. They'd say, well, then he was right to do it. No. You know? So we wonder why the world is the way that it is, because we're the way that we are. You know? So all of this to say, that's why I had the reaction I did. I'm glad he got something. I hope Ariel can breathe for a second. It's going to be a long time for healing. Like, this is going to be years in the making. It's not over for her. It's not over for her kids. They're going to need so much therapy and so much help and so much love and so much support. You know, I'm devastated for anyone who feels abandoned by him and shocked by his behavior. And I just hope that these kids get the support they're going to need, because they're all going to need it. You know, there's 4 kids total who are now going to need a heck of a lot of therapy. You know, Chet says, that's tough. What do you do if you think your partner is lying to you, but you aren't sure? Hey, are you lying to me? I think you're lying to me. And I'm going to really need us to have a conversation about it, because until I get the guarantee you're not lying to me, I think something is out of character. I think you're acting weird. I love you. This is our relationship. It's meaningful to me. I'm really going to need some reassurance. And since I'm not a liar, I'd say, oh my God, what happened? What happened? Yeah. What do you need from me? You need my phone? You need what happened? Like, why do you think I'm lying? I don't know. You've just been acting weird. Really? Have I been acting weird? Maybe you have been acting weird. You know, if you think your partner is lying to you, the marriage is probably over. Or you need to really confront it. Now, let's be honest. Most of us are more than willing to ignore the fact that people are lying to us. Most of us are in relationships in which, when we are lied to, we ignore it and go, okay, they're just humans. Humans lie. Because everybody lies, right? The issue is, though everybody has lied and everybody will lie, not everybody is a liar. Okay? Not everybody is a liar. And the problem is you need to know the difference. And also, you need to eventually decide, am I going to be in a relationship with no lying? So my partner and I, we do complete transparency. I told you, I was at dinner with streamers. I was at dinner with streamers, and a man in the group said, oh, I lie to my wife. I tell her I'm on a work trip, but I'm really on vacation with the boys. And I'm like, why? He's like, look, I never cheated on my wife, but she doesn't need to know what I'm doing. And I'm like, why? He's like, we have a great marriage. We've been together for many years. We have great kids. She doesn't need to know everything. And I said, why? And then everyone else at the table was like, yeah, Brittany, that's normal. And I said, why? And then everyone's like, I was like, I don't do that. I'm with my partner and we don't do that. And I was courting my partner at the time. I was like, no, like, I do informed consent. And not one person at the table agreed with me. Not one person at that table said, oh yeah, I'm like Brittany. Every person at that table said lying is a part of marriage. Lying is a part of relationships. So yeah, I bet people on that jury, I bet people in life in general assume you will be lied to in your marriage. For me, it's grounds for divorce. We have a grounds for divorce rule in our marriage. If I catch you lying, we're getting divorced. That's what I'm telling you, people, is the difference. We do not lie. You can say, I'm embarrassed and I don't want to share. You can say a lot of things, but we don't lie. You know? So again, if you're going to try to lie about something, well, first of all, what do you even have to lie about? Look, nothing is interesting in your life that you need to lie to me. What is even interesting in your life that you need to lie to me? And if there is anything that interesting, we're probably getting divorced anyways. We act like lying is just a duh thing, but what are you really lying about? Like, I used to have an ex who would lie about the stupidest fucking shit. Like the stupidest shit. Like, oh yeah, I took out the trash when he didn't. Why would you lie about that? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying you cannot be in a relationship where somebody is willing to lie over the trash. Now, what you will do, and what I did, because I was trained under patriarchy, was to say, well, it's just about the trash. So it's not even about something important. But what I realized eventually was, like, he lied all the time about everything, including important shit. And then I realized, oh, it's the lying. Yeah, no lying, especially not about unimportant shit. you know, especially about that. So, you know, if I'm in social situations and I'm getting feedback from the world that lying is so a part of marriage, I mean, what do I expect from the world? If I'm always the oddball out in all my social communities, because I'm like, you shouldn't do that, no lying, they're like, Brittany, that's so weird. I'm like, no, you're so weird. They're lying about orgasms. They're lying about who they're talking to. They're lying about friends. They're lying about going out. They're lying about so much. And I'm sitting here like, don't lie about it. Just tell them. And they're like, you can't just be that direct, Brittany. Yes, you can. It's called autism. And also, yes, you can. It's called values. And yes, you can. It's called morals. Like, yes, you can. So yeah, like I'm not surprised that the world, you know, and by the way, and that's why I say like, with peace and love, there was no way I was going to marry somebody that I would tolerate lying out of. But I tell you this right now, this is truly the love of my life. I have never been happier, more sure in my decision. I've never felt more safe, loved, and understood than I've ever felt my whole life. And I swear to God, if this bitch lies to me, I'm going to divorce her. Non-derogatory. With peace and love. I'm going to divorce her. You can't call her a bitch. Only I can call her a bitch. Okay? Because she's my best friend. I will divorce her. And she should divorce me too. If I even came to her and I said, remember that financial couple I told you about where she found out he was buying like shoes and jerseys behind her back and like a $2,000 treadmill? If I came home tomorrow and there was a $2,000 treadmill in my living room, I would file for divorce. And I am dead fucking serious. Do you understand how serious I take this? And I'm going to need somebody with that energy. You need to be so fucking serious. Because no way did you accidentally fall into a $2,000 treadmill. You made a decision. You went behind my back. You spent our hard-earned money. You bought yourself something that you knew I would see in the living room. And then I had to come home to it. You couldn't even tell me ahead of time. Divorce. Divorce. That's what I'm saying. It is so serious to me. Divorce. I just think people are so used to it. It's so normalized that people just they don't even think about it.